Looking to be more creative? Well, you're about to find out how. In this video, I'm going to show you how to be more creative. Now, this is something we've all dealt with. Even those of us who are already super creative, we run into creative blocks. So let's look at how we can actually fix that, how we can be more creative in our day-to-day lives. And let's first think, what makes someone creative? Well, there are two halves of the brain. You have the left side of your brain, which is the logical side of your brain, and you have the right side of your brain, which is the creative side of your brain. Now, we use both sides of the brain, but most of us tend to kind of idle in one of those sides more often than the other. So some people, for example, they're very, very creative, but they perhaps don't know how to organize it. They don't have the kind of logical side. Or other people are very logical, they're crunching numbers, they're doing complex maths and stuff, but when it comes to, coming up with an idea for a painting or something, they're completely lost. Now, since the right side of the brain is the more creative side, it seems natural that we'd want to work more with that. And there are actually ways of hijacking this process. See, your right side of your brain, contrary to what you might think, controls your left side of your body. So actually, by utilizing the left side of your body a bit more, you can actually kind of trick your brain into starting to think with that side. So for example, before you start painting or before you start writing, just doodle a little bit with your left hand. That's where the idea of left-handed people being more creative comes from, because people who are left-handed are probably using their right side of their brain more often. But that doesn't mean that you can't trick the process. Even if you're right-handed like myself, you can doodle a bit with your left hand and get that kind of creative juice flowing. Now, the next thing that you want to do is meditate. Meditate regularly. When you stop the clutter of your thoughts, you stop overthinking things, and you can see things in their simplicity. And as it was said by Leonardo da Vinci, simplicity is the highest form of sophistication. It's when we can see how beautiful the simple things are and how they can work together to create new and interesting things. That's when we're at our most creative. You see, normally we think we're being creative because we throw in so many of these little things we've learnt. We draw every single thing we've learnt to draw on canvas, or we use every single Photoshop tool that we've learnt to use, or we talk about every single skill that we've learned in our book or whatever. And when we clutter too much information and try to do too many things like this, it loses the simplicity, it loses the beauty, and it's not so creative anymore, it's just clutter. So meditate regularly, do a bit of doodling with your left hand before you actually get started, and the next trick I'm going to advise you to do is to actually use the opposite side of the brain to what you normally use. So in other words, if you're a very highly mathematical person, then yes, you want to just stop thinking in maths for a moment and sit down and just look at what's outside, look out the window, look at some art, and get that creative side of your brain active. And if you're someone who's already, a painter, a writer, and that's kind of your focus, you're more into the creative side, then look at some logical things, do some math, do something that gets your brain thinking, do some programming, for example, because what happens is, yes, the creative side of the brain is normally the right side of the brain, but it's when you actually utilize both sides of the brain together, you get this astonishing combination. For example, people like Einstein was able to create such great things and come up with such great discoveries because of the fact that he was a scientist, in other words, a left-brain thinker, but he was able to access his imagination and go into that right brain and borrow from it and give a kind of right-brained inspiration to a field predominantly controlled by people thinking in their left brain. So when you harness the opposite energy to what you're normally working with, you actually get a bit of a boost. Like most artists will just be sitting in their right brain all the time. So if you can be the artist that comes and uses some systematic form of organization for the things in your painting, you do some maths to work out the right ratios between the different objects on the canvas, then you're going to do something that no one else is doing. And it's doing this, it's combining these two halves of your brain that really creates this ultimate combination for success and for creativity. Because the two halves of your brain could also, to a degree, be correlated to the masculine and feminine elements in alchemy. And as in alchemy, when you get the fire and the water, the masculine and the feminine together, that's when the sparks really happen. That's when you get the real creation that matters. So, utilize both halves of your brain. Get your right brain active if you're not using it already. Meditate. And finally, the last tip that I want to give you people is to look to other people doing similar things to you. Even when I'm making these videos, I get inspired because I'll be listening to one of the people that I learned from, or I'll be reading a book that I learned from, and then someone will come up with an idea there, and my own thoughts will add to that. I'll come up with my own variation. I'll come up with a way that I can present it to you guys in a different way that's perhaps more useful, or that perhaps reaches a wider audience. And alright, I kind of lied. There's actually one more tip that I'm going to throw in just before the end, and that's to read. Read lots of books, and you can watch lots of videos and stuff as well, but I recommend having at least, one good book that you're reading all of the time. Whatever else you're doing, you should be reading something, because choose something that suits what you're interested in. If you're an artist, then choose some books about art, about previous painters, their lives, stuff like that. Or perhaps choose some interesting fantasy novels, or novels about the kind of subjects that you're painting. And, if you're a businessman, then look at business books, read what other people did to get successful and stuff, and then you'll get more creative ideas for your business. You get the idea. So that's been all for this video. If you follow these tips, you should find that it really helps bolster your creativity. And remember to subscribe, because there's lots more content like this that's always coming out on our channel. We always do regular video updates. If you like the video, you can give it a thumbs up. And if you want to keep watching more, remember there's a link at the end of the video now.